Professor Andy Chan is Vice Provost of Research and Knowledge Exchange and a Professor of Fluid Mechanics at University of Nottingham, Malaysia. In real life, he is a mathematician and entomologist and a fortune teller by profession. Prof. Andy is also an avid amateur traveler with bucket list of UNESCO World Heritage Sites. We are glad to have him for a chat with us.
Before we start our interview today, we have actually asked a few of your students about you as a teacher.
Okay.
So I'm going to play the voice recording now.
What did they say? Did they embarrass me?
Let's see.
Let's see.
To me, Prof. Andy is a very special and outstanding. He's quite different from other lecturers. He's always very chill, relaxed, and able to convey the dark teaching content in a very interesting way.
One more.
Someone knowledgeable. For example, from the Port Dickson trip, he went out so casually with the student. He can explain things in simple and lively way.
So basically, these are a few feedbacks that we could get from your previous students. And the aim behind us conducting this interview with you today is we are all aware of your knowledge overall in terms of teaching, research, administrative work. But today the specific focus is on if you could guide our students, our audience in the channel, how to teach basically, because this is something that kind of defines how a student's university life would be, because they rely on the teachers and they rely a lot on the teaching assistants and the research assistants to teach them basically for what they're there to learn. And you, as you have seen, we have figured out that you are one of the best lecturer that we have attended in terms of lecture as well. And we want to know from you, how would you guide young academics or young teaching assistants to teach more effectively and engagingly?
Well, first of all, thank you for the compliment. And I think that you need to go through a certain phase of changes. I mean, I don't claim to be a so-called the best teacher on the first day on my job. Of course, you learn a little bit by experience. But you know, from if you ask me for an advice about how do you become a good teacher, or maybe how do you settle in your, or maybe simply yes, how do you settle in your first teaching job? Okay? There are a few things that you ought to do. Number one, of course, you need to know your stuff well. You need to understand and that, of course, people look up to you for the knowledge. Okay, so you need to make sure that yes, you know your stuff well. You can play the part in delivering the job, okay, students, because you're the one who's going to learn from it. Imagine, you go to take a taxi, and the taxi driver tells you, oh, I don't know how to drive. This is a steering wheel. I don't know how to hold it. What kind of response is this? Unfortunately, this is what we've come across. So this leads to my second part of what I call the attribute. You have to be seriously committed to your job, and this is just that whatever you do, you have to be committed to it. So I don't think anyone who is committed would say this kind of things and say that the slides just come to me and therefore I inherit this, so I just read it to you. What kind of commitment is this? So. So you need to be well prepared, and you need to be committed, and of course you have to exert a bit of passion in your job. Okay, you have to like what you're going to do. If you don't like your job, don't do it. Okay? Right. So I would say that it's been a little bit of a fortune that I've been in the industry for a long time, and it's a job that I enjoy. So I mean, obviously, it's a positive feedback. I think that's at least, for the first 1 or 2 years, you settle down, and then as you develop, as you become more, adept to your teaching style, your knowledge, and things like that, then you can start to explore. Like what I usually try to advocate is, and I'll come back to that maybe a bit later on, is I hope that what I teach is. It's not something that you can find in a book. It's not something that you can just Google from the internet. Now, access to information is very easy. And, honestly, most of us will look for information from the internet, from the library, or whatsoever. Maybe not so much at the library nowadays, but at least you'll get it from the internet. So the role of a teacher has changed slightly. Okay, slightly. Okay, so it's not about information. It's not about giving information only. It's actually about sharing an experience, sharing knowledge, not information. There's a difference between knowledge and information. I do engineering. You can find every book on, I don't know, mathematics, structural mechanics, fluid mechanics. You can find everything. But if I asked you to design like in coastal engineering, design a seawall, you don't find a book that is like this, because every situation is different. So these are what I call non-Googleable information that I hope that a teacher can achieve. So then the student finds a value to approach a teacher. In a way, it goes back to where teaching is. We talk about teaching as we need to use a lot of multimedia and use a lot of technology. It's not about that. A good teacher is not about using technology. If you allow me to say this, Mohammed does not use an iPad. Jesus does not have a computer. They are the best teacher in civilization, okay? Because they share knowledge, they share experience, they share their teaching, and it's something that they cannot find anywhere else. Okay, and of course, obviously, they are very, very passionate in doing their job. So the best teacher is about being able to transpire or deliver those kind of messages or information, and as I said, not most importantly, knowledge, not only information about, and how do you actually deliver it to the students. And so that's, I would say, is the second phase. But of course, as I said, it probably takes a bit of 5 years to acquire that experience and that skills. But at least I hope that audience of this channel, if you are aspiring to become a new teacher, I mean, at least the first thing that I would be expecting you to be able to do is know your stuff well. Okay, don't tell me that this is something that is just put onto you. I mean, I can tell you, when I first started teaching, I taught chemistry module.
Chemistry.
I taught chemistry module. I don't know this. I mean, I can't say I don't know this. I mean, I was not very good at this. But I mean, in front of students, you cannot say that.
Right.
Okay, so you just work hard on this, and of course, be committed to your job. At least with these two attributes, I think then you can start settling in, and then pays your way in.
Being a teacher is your first ambition?
Sort of. It's not my first job. I mean, a lot of people know that my first job is working in a bank. Sort of, yeah. I mean, of course, most of us who do a PhD, and back in the days, 30 years ago, when you do a PhD, you almost, I would say, 2/3 of them would be expecting an academic life anyway. So yeah, sort of. But obviously, I didn't realize the job of being a university teacher is not what we envisage. Obviously, because there's research, and then there's
more job than
there's
expected.
marketing, and then there's administration, and all that. Teaching is obviously only a very, very tiny part of my job duty. But yeah, I mean, sort of.
Do you think a passion being a teacher comes naturally or after a few training?
I think probably back to the word commitment. I mean, you just have to be committed to what you're doing. If you're not, I mean, don't do it.
So basically, you mean passion cannot be trained?
I personally don't think so.
Actually, I think we believe the same, but I feel there is a different approach to it, where people feel that when you train yourself in a certain way, that you adapt to it and you become a certain person just by training, right? Rigorous training, and you train yourself to be more robotic in a way. Do you think that is when a person moves away from what his natural passion and abilities are?
I would not use the word training. I would probably use the word coaching instead. Someone who give you various advice, someone who would try to handhold you for a while, tell you what is the right path, what is the not so right path, and so on and so forth. But ultimately, if you say the word commitment or passion, I think it has to come from yourself. I mean, you just have to be committed to your job and passionate about your job to do it. This also comes back to what I was about to say when you asked me that question. Of course, I have to admit, passion evaporates slowly. It dissipates. Your energy dissipates. I mean, life comes in the way. A lot of things comes in, and then of course you die a bit of your passion starts to die out. Again, I can only share that I have been fortunate that I keep my passion on for a long time, and one of the ways that I do so is that I keep refreshing on the newest material, the latest materials of the stuff that I'm teaching. Now, I have to say it's easier for my part. I teach fluid mechanics, I teach computational mathematics and all these kind of stuff, which don't change as quickly as in other areas like computer science or biotechnology or something like that. So every maybe 1 or 2 years, I refresh the materials, I add in the latest materials, and learn from this. I also include all my research into what I do, and again, that's the way in which I reignite the fire, if I use that word, and maintain that passion. But as I said, it's perhaps easier for me, but I can envisage that like people from computer science, every 3 years they have to refresh and relearn a whole new language. There's something that is brand new, like blockchain, which they just have to pick up. And like what I do, it's more about the evolution and the development. So yeah, but anyway, I think it's very important, and I don't think that it applies only to the teaching job, but to anything that we do. I think you just need to stay passionate and stay committed to whatever you do.